welcome to CXO Perspectives, the conversation series that invites business leaders to share their perspectives on how technology is enabling transformation. A key subject for business leaders today is sustainability, and rightfully so. How do we as a society consume in a more sustainable way? Consider, for example, plastic. Much of what we consume ends up buried in the ground in landfill, incinerated in the air, or polluting the ocean. So it's easy to look at the sustainability problem and see that the complete elimination of plastic consumption is key to the answer. But consider this material again. Plastic enables hundreds of millions of people to access cheap, clean drinking water. Plastic touches all aspects of our lives, from consumer packaged goods to your smartphone to medicine. So is it time to think of a new perspective about plastic? Maybe the answer isn't necessarily eliminating the consumption of plastic, but how we consume it in a more sustainable way. And that's where technology comes in. So I'm pleased today to introduce my panel, who will bring in perspectives on how their organizations are using technology to help society achieve its sustainability goals. I'm joined by, to my left, Anna Green, who's the head of small and medium business at Amazon Web Services in Asia Pacific and Japan. Welcome. Welcome back to Sumit Nopuri, who is the Chief Operating Officer for Capgemini for Southeast Asia, Hong Kong and Taiwan. And joining us all the way from Malaysia, Kian Sia, the CEO and founder of HHI, an end-to-end plastic recycling company. Welcome all. I'm looking forward to your perspectives on how we can make an impact. So Sumit, is plastic a problem?
Well, plastic's the product that consumers love to hate. Much maligned, much misunderstood. The problem isn't really with plastic per se. It's with single-use plastic. That's what ends up in oceans. That's what ends up in landfills. Why? Because plastic recycling is expensive, it's difficult, it's dependent upon government regulations, upon market demand, upon price pressures. So it's much easier to incinerate or to throw it away than to collect, separate, and recycle. But something fundamental is changing now. We've got the principles of the circular economy, Uberization, network orchestrators. We've got lots of technology innovation, and most importantly, we've got a conscious consumer. Those three are fantastic ingredients, and with the right recipe, we can make a substantive, indeed a transformative change to the plastics economy. And today, it's a pleasure for me to be here, and I know I speak for Anna too, for Capgemini-AWS, to be here with a change maker who's at the forefront of it all, Kian.
Kian, the change maker, welcome to this conversation. It's great to have you here. Before we talk about plastics and the problem with the plastic recycling industry, I'm curious to hear a bit of your backstory as well, because I hear that your family had designs that you've become an investment banker, but here you are involved in plastic recycling. What happened there?
Well, thank you for having me here. For me, it has been an interesting journey. I was born in a recycler's family. So rather than choosing recycling as a career, I was born in a recycler's family. My parents started as scavengers, curbside collector at the age of 10. So I will go with them from household to household to collect recyclables. And at a very young age, when other people see waste, my parents already thought as the worth, within that. However, growing up, my parents always asked two things from us. Number one, get a degree, any degree, preferably the degree that will make us an investment banker. And number two, never ever become a recycler. Simply because that although it is a genuine business, however, you will never get the respect that you will actually get. So for me, I have seen how my parents were being looked down at a young age. So that for me kind of becomes a calling that has started the entire journey trying to defend the family honor. So what happens among all four siblings? All four of us did get our degree, and all four of us are actually in recycling right now. So I have a brother that focuses in Metascrap, a trading business that we are one of the two largest Metascrap supplier to local steel mills. I have my younger brother who focus on paper, and we are also one of the two largest paper scrap supplier to local steel mill. I am the plastic brother, and I have a sister who basically is the non-ferrous queen, if you will. So together, we kind of put together that interesting infrastructure together. Now, for me, also, I choose plastic also because there is this obvious reality that's lying in front of me. That I don't believe that we actually have a global plastic pollution problem. I believe that we have a global plastic ignorance problem, and I want to do something to fix that.
Mm. What do you mean by a plastic ignorance problem?
Okay. So what we see, when we see plastic, we, in our current linear economy, we have the habit of actually extracting crude oil out from there, and then we convert it to material, and then we send it to retailer, we consume the product, and then we send it back underground again. So we have this below ground hydrocarbon that support our linear consumption pattern. And to me, that is very wasteful, especially when we keep plastic underground. Plastic will take a long time to degrade, and it creates a lot of environmental hazard, if you will. What I believe is that I believe in above ground hydrocarbon circularity. So I believe in the value of plastic. We know that we know a lot about the benefit of plastic, but there is one huge benefit of plastic that people do not know about. Every time when plastic changes its shape, it spits out value to serve humanity. From the time that we extract that from crude oil, when we change that to become raw material, it gives us value. And then when we convert it to product, it gives us value. When the final product goes to consumer, it gives us value. After consumption, when we collect it back, it gives us value. And then we can recycle that 7 times, from a mechanical point of view. After 7 times, the molecular structure collapsed, but we can go through a chemical recycling, and then the whole cycle starts over. So you heard it right. We can convert plastic scrap to become a hydrocarbon feedstock that can produce new plastic material that can help us to reduce the dependency on natural resources. All we have to do is to keep this above ground and continue to juggle this hydrocarbon above ground. It was very complex in the past. We couldn't do it, but now we can.
So we've heard what is fundamentally a complex problem and a fragmented industry. What are you doing about this, and how are you working with your clients at Capgemini?
So there are two facets to Capgemini's sustainability initiatives. Of course, the first is our own net zero targets and how we can reduce our travel, waste, energy management, and so on. But more significantly, it's Capgemini leveraging our technology and innovation capabilities of our 270,000 people to help our clients meet their sustainability goals. Closer to home, we who live in Singapore, we know water is a very strategic resource here. We've just started, along with Singapore Power and the Public Utilities Board, rolling out smart water meters. And these provide near real-time information that helps prevent leaks. It encourages adoption of water-saving habits. So those are the kind of initiatives we're engaged in on sustainability. With HHI, the space we're sitting in today, we call this the Applied Innovation Exchange, which is not only a physical space, but also a methodology for finding innovative solutions to age-old problems. And we brought together a range of people in this space. Kian's own people from his organization, sustainability experts, people from our design agency, Frog, from our digital customer experience practice, some technology practitioners. And the aim is to design a solution that can help with revolutionizing collection and distribution of plastic. And that's manifested in the early manifestation of that, the MVP, if you like, the minimum viable product, is a mobile app, which allows consumers, which first educates consumers on how they might, on recycling tips, but also allows them to request for a pickup. It allows the collectors who've been onboarded onto this app to respond to that request, to plan their routes efficiently, to track customer satisfaction rates, to receive payments digitally and promptly. It also allows the customers to earn points, and there's some gamification, and because they can share that and see the kind of environmental impact they're having. So I think it's really a little bit about, the common thing here is how do we bring our capabilities together to meet whatever the range of sustainability goals that our clients have, whether it's HHI or the Public Utilities Board.
So Anna, we've listened to Capgemini and HHI's solution to the sustainability problem. And core to that problem and the solution is technology. So how is cloud key to that solution at scale?
Look, climate change is a serious issue, and cloud technology can really play a crucial role in meeting sustainability goals for customers and for communities. So we see that manifesting in two ways. The first is that moving to the cloud can actually help reduce your carbon footprint. So 451 Research recently created a study which found that if you move your on-premises stack, information technology stack, to the cloud, you can actually reduce your carbon offset by 78%. Your carbon emissions by 78%. And then second, we actually are seeing that companies are using the breadth and depth of solutions that we have built and offer on AWS to build sustainable solutions. So we have some really amazing customers that are doing fantastic things with our services. We Got Utility Solutions in India is a great example. They are building using AWS technology, the Internet of Things, or IoT, as we like to refer to it in the industry, using that type of technology to create a water tracking system, which is literally saving billions of litres of water every year. And then we have customers like eCube in South Korea. They are using AWS machine learning technology for its smart bins and waste collection, and thinking differently about how to manage and monitor carbon emissions through logistics and waste collection. So really interesting ways that technology is being used to solve for sustainability issues.
Kian, maybe for the benefit of the audience, you can describe to us actually what this looks like at the ground level. Describe to us the plastic recycling process, particularly who the actors involved are.
Sure. The entire plastic value chain is highly fragmented. You have operator A that's doing collection, operator B that's doing separation, operator C that's doing crushing, washing, mixing, and operator F is doing the final extrusion and to melt the plastic down to little pellets. Now, all these 6 operators are working without an industrial standard. So everybody do what they think is right or what they feel is correct. So what happens to that is that it created this high labor cost, this high non-value adding logistic cost, and most importantly, it creates a lot of idling costs. So therefore, as material flow from A to F, the cost goes up. The cost goes up. However, the quality goes down. And therefore, we have that reputation of recycled plastic being inferior in quality. However, the cost is very, very high. And therefore, the growth has been relatively organic over the years. Now, because of that, a lot more plastic are not properly captured by the plastic recycling industry, and it ends up in mismanaged landfill, and therefore it will goes to river and the ocean. So that is a problem number one. The second problem is the informal community that we mentioned earlier on. So the informal community are basically the journey that we have been through, starting from a curbside collectors, a mobile pickers, a yard owner, processor, and finally aggregator. Here in Malaysia, we work with 28,000 of these independent or plastic recycling operators, if you will. Now, this B2B informal community are not visible to general public. So, Graham, for you and I, for example, that we are conscientious consumer of plastic, we sort our plastic. However, we do not know where to go. The 28,000 are not visible to general public. So, therefore, in developing countries such as here in Malaysia, you will see the conscientious consumer separate the plastic. But what happened next is that the dump truck that comes will mix everything back to the same dump truck again. So all their effort has been wasted. So basically, for the general public, the entire experience of trying to participate in this entire plastic recycling journey has been very frustrating. It has been very inconvenient, and also it has been very confusing. Without fixing that, that means that more household plastic is going to be to end up in mismanaged landfill and therefore leaking to the ocean, to the river, and to open fire again. So that is also the second problem that will affect us all, that we are all suffering right now. Last but not least is this product-centric type of model for the entire industry. The entire linear industry is powered by this silo approach, whereby the oil company will basically extract out the oil and then they will pass it over to a resin producer, a converter, a product developer, and then finally distribute to retailer and finally send to landfill again. Now, these are all done in a silo approach, and it's all power on that, making things faster, better, cheaper, prettier. That's it. And hand it to the next guy and hand it to the next guy. And this is an open-ended type of linear consumption pattern. And as we found out now, this is actually also a very wasteful consumption and also production pattern, simply because then what will happen then is that we are sending a lot of plastic to landfill with the risk of leaking to the ocean, river, and therefore creating this environmental hazard that all of us have to face now. Now, combining these three problems together, it becomes a problem that's too complex to be solved by one entity, whether it's government, whether it's big company, whether it's NGO, so on and so forth. So there we have to live with this problem, and somehow we have to find a way to solve this problem together.
Samir, Kian says this is a problem that's too complex to be solved by one entity. Working with HHI, how do you visualize such a problem?
Yeah, there were a number of areas that Kian referred to there, but I think the one that I heard loud was that consumers find this whole process difficult. And how do we make that easier for them now that they are conscious and willing, they want to do this? So, our research, and Kian said that we really want to make it easy and convenient for them. And technology enables that through new ways of digital interaction. Second, they want to be able to take a stand on social media. I'm making an impact. So we want to gamify this and allow them to, to stand for this, to take a position on it. And third, consumers want to see the impact they're making. And we've got now great data analytics that allow us to measure the impact, and so that they can see that. It also, when we measure this, it also allows the brands, it gives them insights on how do they then predict consumer behavior and how do they lead it? How do they design products that suit these consumers? I mean, when I think about it, all of the technology elements that we talk about today, the cloud for scalability, because today we are starting in Malaysia. Tomorrow, if this goes well, Indonesia, Singapore, the world, right, Kian? So scalability, modularity, All of these are really important elements that technology allows us, that when we want to go to the next place, we can do it easily. And finally, these companies are committing to recycled plastic. They want to be able to trace the provenance. We've got technology like blockchain that allows you to do that. So I think there's a number of areas there, and we are going to build on that. So I talked about starting with a minimum viable product and all the way to global domination of plastic recycling.
Ken, maybe you can walk us through the solution, help us understand the nuts and bolts of how this actually works.
Sure. I think what we do for the first problem statement of fragmentation, so what we do is integration. So currently we integrate A to F together. By integrating A to F together, it helps us to reduce the labor cost by 40%, logistic cost by more than 60%. And also by integrating that, we also create another important coupling strategy. So what we do is that we create an internal standard that we share it with the industry. So all 28,000 basically follow this de facto industrial standard as a playbook. So currently we do everything manually. Yeah, since 2002, we do all this manually. But what would happen is that when we bring in digitalization into the picture through our partnership with Capgemini, we can now basically track the entire traceability of the footprint for the plastic. For example, I'll give you an example that we collect ocean plastic, we convert it into a very high grade of material. We work with a Dutch interior designer and also an award designer to design a chair that is called a louver chair. And with that, we make that into an end product that we piece together the entire provenance and chain of custody within that QR code. So imagine in the future, when you buy 10 different ocean plastic chair, it will tell you 10 different footprints, if you will, 10 different provenance that look exactly the same, but they came from different parts, of the country, from the island or different parts of the beach or whatnot. So that's part one. Now, the second thing is that we are really trying to extend that invisible B2B business. Now it becomes C to B to B. So what happens essentially, the short answer to that is Uberizing it. Or here in Malaysia, we may say Grabifying it. So that means that at household level, as what Sumit has mentioned before, we basically recreate the entire user journey from this. So we sit down and try to make the entire journey easy for everybody. So if you separate your scrap, the recyclable at home, all you have to do is put it onto our MVP, and then the mobile collectors will come and collect that. And then finally, we'll give you the visibility of what happens to the plastic that you have collected and what kind of impact that it actually can be done. For example, here in Malaysia, we actually required 76 kilogram of plastic to become to become plastic neutral. In other words, Malaysians use 76 kilogram of plastic per capita per year. So if you are part of this user on this platform, depending on how much you are collecting, Graham, if let's say today you collected and contributed 76 kilogram of plastic, the app will tell you that congratulations. As of today, you are a plastic neutral individual or plastic neutral citizen. You can go out and shout to the world. So the entire journey, not only that now it is simplified, it is convenient, it is also meaningful for our conscientious consumer. And last but not least, what we try to do is to convert that linear economy into the circular economy. The more that we can actually track this circularity, the more that we can actually calculate the carbon that we serve, that we are able to save from that. So the entire act of the stakeholders coming together is actually an act of decarbonization, and basically we revamp and redesign the entire plastic production and consumption model from a linear economy to a circular economy.
Anna, it's encouraging to hear new perspectives from innovators like HHI, but there's still a long way to go, isn't there? What can the private sector do, and how is Amazon taking a lead?
Look, the private sector can do a lot. And what we have seen at Amazon and AWS is that the key is really to set big, bold targets and also to transform the ways in which you're doing business to help to reduce carbon emissions on all fronts. So one of the things that Amazon we have done is to co-found the Climate Pledge, which is something that we created in 2018. It's a commitment to become net zero carbon by 2040, which is actually 10 years ahead of the Paris Accord. And we're doing that in three ways. So the first is that we are eliminating carbon for our operations. The second is responsible reporting. And finally, making sure we're investing in high quality carbon offsets.
So tell us a bit more about the Climate Pledge. How does that work?
Yeah, it's a fantastic construct. We have more than 200 global organisations that have joined the Climate Pledge, and together we're generating $1.8 trillion in global revenues annually, which is a huge number of revenues from all of those customers and those companies. And collectively, they will mitigate 1.98 billion metric tons of carbon by 2040. That's a huge number, and that's what I mean when I say really trying to have ambitious goals around this.
And Anna, how does that look at the operational level?
So at Amazon, we're on a path to achieving the powering of all of our operations 100% through renewable energy by 2025. In 2020, we reached 65% of that goal, and we are working with partners and customers like Mitsubishi on solar power projects that are really going to drive that outcome for us. And that's, again, what I mean by partnering with customers and communities to try to make impactful change. And no more so than the systemic change that we're trying to implement in partnership with customers like and companies like Capgemini, where we are working together to build a commitment around sustainability to really drive outcomes in all of the communities that we're operating across globally.
Kian, we're talking long-term horizons here. I've heard you talk not in 5-year horizons, but potentially 50 years. You talked about taking us to a plastic neutral economy. Share with us your vision of that.
Sure. I think, for us, our team sit down together and we try to envision what is the relationship that mankind has with plastic 50 years from now. So what we saw, what we, collectively, deliberated is that we believe that 50 years from now, we will not live in a plastic-free society, but rather we will live in a plastic-neutral society. That juggling in the air that we were talking about, creating this above-ground hydrocarbon circularity, that's what we envision. So how are we going to achieve that? First, we believe that we need to coordinate the uncoordinated, especially in a developing country. We are working with these 28,000 hardworking and also, very, very dedicated independent recyclers here in Malaysia. And in the past, we actually integrate all of that through our manual playbook, if you will. Going forward, we are coordinating everybody through that digital algorithm. I think that's something that's important. Now, the second thing is that, we talk about that linear economy model. And what we are trying to do essentially is bending the linear economy to become a circular one. The sooner that we can bend that linear economy into that circular one by bringing all the stakeholders into this. So it's almost like a don't drop the ball party, if you will, Graham, that basically we collect that plastic scrap. We then convert it to very high grade of material. We work with co-creator to design that life cycle centric type of model. We work with big brands, and finally, we then sell it to conscientious consumer like yourself. And then we say to you that don't drop the ball. you basically are going to consume 76 kilogram of plastic, but send that 76 kilogram of plastic back to us. And with that, we can then create that circularity that we are looking for. And internally, there's also a magic that will happen within you that once we make recycling easy for you, Graham, you will then become a eco-conscious buyer, that you will basically want to buy products that has good recycled content in there, and you tend to stick within this model and you're willing to pay premium. So this is basically the model that Sumit talked about earlier on, that it has to be a business that do good while staying profitable. And so for us, what we are trying to do essentially is that we envision and we are doing everything that we could to create that inclusive and intelligent ecosystem. And once we prove that in Malaysia, we want to go regional, we want to go global, and hopefully we can then create a greener, a cleaner, and a happier planet.
Sumit, we've heard new perspectives from HHI, we've heard some bold initiatives from AWS. Sustainability is not just CSR anymore, it's too important, it's too critical. What advice would you offer and share with our audience today so that we, like Kian says, don't drop the ball on this?
So I think the promising thing from this conversation is that we're seeing willingness, whether it's from the conscientious consumer or from the large brands. We heard about the climate pledge. We've heard of larger consumer brand organizations like Unilever make commitments to zero plastic packaging and so on. So with that willingness, and combined with the innovations in technology and the circular economy, we've seen that we really have the ability to design a win-win proposition, and a win-win proposition for all of the players in this ecosystem. The environment to start with, us as conscious consumers, the plastic manufacturers, the large brands, the curbside collector, the person who's vulnerable, and all of this, and finally, even the P&L statements. Those two can have a win-win proposition. So I think we saw today that we can make a difference, and the difference that we make is the legacy that we leave.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sumit, and thank you also to panelists Anna and to Kian for sharing their stories and new perspectives as well today. You've been watching CXO Perspectives. My name is Graham Brown. Thank you very much.